Okay, so here we are at week 11, and we are on our last problem set before we move on to writing databases. And this last one, in my opinion, is a fun one. You will tell me afterwards, I suppose, but it's going to be the money ball. I already have the instruction file for what you're going to do for the setup. So the first thing you're going to do is actually walk through the setup on the instruction file. So if I scroll to the top, and I'll just briefly go look at mine to show you, you're going to go through these steps. Now pay close attention because I changed this up a little bit from week 10 because I realized some of the things I didn't was made it a little harder for me to grade. So I'm updating that here. Okay. So you're going to do the normal getting used to or getting a new data set work, right? So this we've been doing before, and you'll create a new query file for the Moneyball, and then you'll create your README, and then you'll set up or you'll do your commit. Okay, so just to show you my setup here for that, here's my ds-q SQL file. And it is really helpful to put those prints before each one. That way, if you're ever looking at it and trying to remember, oh yeah, which table is that? And it really is good to spend some time looking at this data set because this data set is definitely more involved than the DESE one from last week. So spending some time looking at the CS50s, relational, the ERD is really helpful. So anyway, that's the setup. That's the second file, right? So you do all that. And now, once you've done that, now you're going to follow the instruction in attendance, okay? So the only thing I have before we get into that is just make sure that in whatever you're writing your query, you only include your final query in your query file and your attempts in your POE file, your README file, because I only want the final ones. Now, for the end, this is going to feel very much like week 10 because I kind of feel like that worked out well. But in this case, you're going to, and this is different, you're going to create a week 11 query file and copy, like before, we copy previous SQL files, removing them, setting your proof of work to -A. Now, this time, I'm actually going to, instead of having you do like I did before with group buys and order buys, which you could still use, but I'm going to open this up a little bit because really playing around with this data and just getting some more time on the keyboard writing queries for all the things that we've learned. So you'll use one of your queries to do that. Like before, you also need to do a count as well. And then one of them needs to be a join or a subquery. And again, do not code the problems we're going to do 1 through 5 on the Moneyball problem. Okay, ensure your queries are following best practices. Use the count as we did in week 11. Once you have that ready, do your POE, POW, get workflows, and then here's the commit messages. And like before, in your reply, use the PRE in the HTML part of your post and include your query and then the number of records returned in a brief description. Now, is your peer review? Again, very similar. Reply to at least one of your classmates. We'll run both their queries. If one fails, provide them some feedback. Most people I found in week 10 actually were able to get their queries done, no problem. And if then choose one, right, and modify it to create different results. Again, we're just playing with the data set. The more time we do this, the more of a head start you get on the problem set. Now, in this week, you do need to capture the query variation in your week 11 query file. I'll show you mine. I've already set it up just to give you the layout I did, and I recommend you doing here. So for my week 11, I have my query number, so you'll have 2 of these, and the counts, right? So you'll first do your first one, and then you'll, as before, comment that out and comment that one out for your count, and then do your next one and do your commits. Hopefully by now this is starting to become more routine. We're doing it for the second week here. And then your query variation and your query variation count. Making sure every time you set up one of these new files, right, you give your right proof of work file. And then this is just really helpful to have down there whenever you need to run it. Okay? Okay, so that's the attendance. Again, minor changes, basically what we're doing last time, but I'm having you isolate the independent work, the queries here into a different file because it was just too much to try to find all the content I needed from you. Okay, so now let's actually look at the rest of the Moneyball problem, okay? So in this case, again, it's going to feel very similar. I kind of purposely kept this similar in this case, right? So you're gonna work through 5 problems. Okay, I'll come back to this. So as before, you do get a break after 3, and I will review and give you feedback. And so here are the problems. So 1, 2, and 3. Unlike last week, I'm not going to actually code one with you because I think these are just good queries for you to attempt on your own. So there's your 3. And as before, right, I still want you to do the count for each one of these, but I just copied into from the CS50's site into here. Okay, so there's 4 and then there's 5. And these, I would say, are definitely a little more challenging. Okay, so let me scroll back up. So those are the 5 you're going to need to do. For each, you'll write them in your, and I don't know how each of you do approach this. I know I write them and then copy them onto the terminal, make sure they work. Once they do, once you get the correct output, right, then you'll also write your count. You can look at your week 10 for that. Use your .print to identify each query and related count. And then do your PO proof of work, include both, and then make your commit, right? So, and I cleaned this up a little bit from last time as well. I realized it was redundant. So then comment out that one, do your next one, okay? All right, so I think that's it. I gave you a link. Actually, this is to the schema, but you could go directly to all of it and look at it. And again, definitely spending some time here. Major League Baseball players, teams, salaries, and performances up to 2001. And then the players, again, this is for you to really spend some time because this is, I think, a really good next level data set. And for those of you that like sports, this will probably be a little more enjoyable as well. Okay? All right, so back to here. So that's it for this week. We did have a change to the review. I already recorded one for week 10 for that, and I actually am working on a new prompt as well with actually some help from one of the students in the Discord. Okay, hope this helps. Let me know if you need anything. Talk to you later.